Alrighty, thank you everybody for staying with us. I'd like to introduce Dr. Bettina Tagle from the University of Maine at Augusta. Without further ado, I will turn it over to you.
Jill, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So I am up here in the beautiful state of Maine. It is really cold right now, but we love it. Today, the presentation is going to be ransomware first response. I know that many of us know what ransomware already is, and we kind of already, in a way, know how to respond, but I kind of want to talk a little bit about how the organization may respond or be prepared to do so. So I'm going to move to the next slide, I believe. There we go. So you're at your workplace and a pop-up says that your computer's locked. And this creates obviously a panic mode for many of us. It's on your work laptop no matter what. What should you do? Well, as a person working on the computer, you're probably immediately going to want to let your supervisor know, but it's supposed to cause that panic reaction, right? So then what will your organization do, right? So this kind of is where we're going with going in with the next slide for information. So again, what, how, and why. I know a majority of us in the call today already get an idea of the ransomware. So this is just a refresher to kind of set us up to talk about the organizational response. So of course, ransomware is malicious code. It is to freeze up and lock the computer. And in some cases, it actually can take that information and send it to the attacker. And the biggest key factor that's the impact in this is that only they have access to the key. It's probably possible to get that key. You just have to be very careful how you use it, because even though you have the key, certainly you could cause more damage or not be able to open your files. So basically, first, we know that ransomware is malware. It's meant to freeze a computer and take over your information and cause you to have that panic reaction. Second, we kind of know how it's done, right? This is kind of a refresher. Engineering, social engineering, most common, phishing emails, especially like spear phishing emails, or especially to the higher ups of a company, your presidents and such like that. Third, why is it done? Well, really, it's pretty easy, right? People have emotional reactions. It's easy to observe or get into that mode of using that emotional reaction. And then money, it's good money, right? Data is gold right now. Again, it creates an emotional response of the victim to want to act quickly, right? So third, why is it done? Here's an example. I'm just going to kind of read through this a little bit. Imagine if you're a medical facility and you've built a very good reputation in the community, and you have a ransomware, and the attacker threatens to publicly post pornographic images of hospital personnel if they don't pay the ransom, right? This is a case, it's extreme, but it has occurred. Now, the pictures are fake, but imagine the panic of that organization or that employee that the attacker targets, right? That's the reputation of that medical facility in that community. Now, do they pay it? Do they not? I mean, they've said that if they pay it, they're going to post the pictures if they don't pay, but if they pay it, will they still post those, or will they then demand money, right? Even, again, the images don't exist, maybe they don't, or they faked them. So that's kind of where we're coming with this. Now we know, we all have a common understanding of ransomware and the emotions that it's supposed to bring on, that panic thing. But then let's kind of take a look. Let's kind of take a look at some of the statistics to kind of give a little more support, right? So in 2020, and we could go, I probably could have posted, 20,000 slides on this, but the statistics are, and we kind of have the common knowledge again, that it is on the rise. In 2018 to 2019, New York Times posted an article. It's an increase of 41%, right? Spiking to $84,000 and 116, right? The thing is that attacks are increasing, and the attackers want to remain, they don't want to be traced, right? You can trace money, you can trace credit cards, you can trace certain bank transactions. And so the deal is kind of right now that's becoming popular is the use of Bitcoin, right? You can't really trace that too much. It's kind of still a newer thing. So imagine, and we could probably get an idea of how much one Bitcoin is worth, right? There's other ways as well. I'm just saying this is an example of the demands that attacker could make, right? And so this type of activity is on the rise. So imagine if you're a Fortune 500 company, right? So here's an example right here, a Fortune 500 company. So this comes from this article. So Maze purchased access to Cognizant's data from a hacker who is advertising the sale of access to a huge IT company's data. So 200K. So an attacker paying 200K for the data, or even the ability to attack or get into a place, a Fortune 500 company. It's about the money, right? They're willing to pay that money. They're willing to ask for that much, but they're willing to pay that money because in the long run, it's becoming the new gold is data, is information, right? If somebody was to, although I'm sure many of us have experienced this, and in my lifetime, I have gotten those letters, your data has been breached. You can have your 1-year monitoring and so forth, but there was huge breach. There's been all kinds of public sector and private sector breaches. So I'm sure my information is out there, but of course I don't want my information shared. So what is the new gold, right? So they're willing to do it. Attackers are willing to go out there and pay the money to gain the access to the company. And the companies most of the time is willing to pay, right? They're willing to pay that ransom because, they do not want their data out there, especially, okay, we're going to post it on social media so everybody can see your customer list and their private information. So how did the hacker gain the data? Were they an insider? I mean, were they not? We probably in later articles could find out some information, but it doesn't matter. Regardless, Maze took the opportunity, right? The intent was the fact that they wanted to gain access, and they did. And then Maze, then Cognizant went ahead and fell into that. So no organization is safe, right, against ransomware, whether you're small, whether you're large, whether you're Fortune 500. Now that is just the new growing attack, even somebody sitting at their personal PC. So this was kind of building up to an organization responding. How do they respond? And again, for you, obviously, if I'm sitting here, I'm going to report it to my supervisor where I'm supposed to report it based on process, right? As a person, an individual person sitting in my front of my laptop at work, and this has occurred, I am definitely going to go and tell my supervisor. And this is not a time to be worried about, being the cause of it or not, right? Again, this is on the personal side. The organization needs to take quick action, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you report things. Now, so that's fine. You're the single person in front of a laptop and you've been hit with ransomware. It's on your work laptop and you're at work, or during this pandemic situation, maybe you're working at home, right? Either way it's occurred, you report that immediately. Now let's look then on the organization's options, right? It's on an organization PC, it's on their laptop. So then let's look at the options that they have, right? They've been hit with, with ransomware now. So what are their options? Pay or not to pay, right? So an organization has a security policy. And again, I know some of this is common knowledge, right? Security is the basis of basically building out your security program. Thou shall and thou shall not, right? So you implement your security controls and you implement your security program based on the infrastructure of what the policy states, right? So the organization's security policy should clearly state in a thou shall language which option the organization can take. I mean, again, a lot of organizations are already doing this. So this isn't kind of like a newer knowledge. This is more like a refresher. Like if you're an organization or you're in the position that you kind of need to look, at your annual policy review, even the others that go along with incident response, is just a good time to remember that if you make the decision to pay, or if you make the decision not to pay, then it's kind of, the support is there to be able to take that action. So for an organization, it's a huge responsibility, right? You not only have yourself, but the employees, and then of course the clients and stuff. So this kind of look at your security policy and see. In the meantime, of course, the incident response team should be working on the case as soon as it's reported, right? And probably have very good incident response procedures. But so again, how do they respond? So what's the ultimate knowledge from this slide, right? The organization's responsibility is really to view the policy, review their security policy. They need to review, if they have it, they need to review their cybersecurity insurance. We're going to talk about that a little later, and I'm only bringing that up because it can become an aspect of ransomware. And then look at what backups are on standby, right? So you're kind of looking at your backups, you're looking at your review, security policy and your cyber insurance, and I'm sure there's other elements we could talk about, right? In this, but the big mixture I kind of wanted to talk about today for an organization responding and deciding do they pay or not, again, that's an organization's decision, is to bring these three kind of elements into it. As we talked about, we've seen a rise in ransomware attacks, right? There's also been a rise in the fact that the attackers know information especially if they're going to attack, for example, a Fortune 500 company. Especially if they're going to attack a company, whether it's small, medium, or large, but especially maybe they attack a company that supports like government contracts and all that. So no matter what, an attacker is really going to know their victim, right? They're going to know about their victim. And sometimes, and this is becoming up more often, smaller companies, they're attacked because they're the practice on, right? An attacker comes along and says, oh, I'm sure there are several examples that I could bring up, but oh, there's this utility company out in New Hampshire, Wyoming, and let's just practice. Let's just see if we could get in, right? Let's just see how this ransomware attack would work on them. We can like bring it back to the table, change it up how we need to, and then attack, the larger companies. So again, it's anybody can get attacked. This kind of ties in then if the attacker knows you really well, and if you're a large company, a lot, again, this is probably more refresher information, but this isn't like putting out there what insurance company to have or anything like that. This is just bringing into the topic the fact that the impact of cyber insurance in with the process of responding to ransomware. So let's say that the company does have cyber insurance, right? The attacker probably knows the amount that they would pay, and they're probably going to ask, a lot of times they ask for that amount, right? So that's why I kind of brought this topic into the organization response to ransomware. And what they do is because then if you're attacked and you do go through that, then you kind of have to look at the requirements of then to make your claim, right? Cybersecurity insurance, it can be categorized in many different ways. This is an example: data breach, cyber liability, and even cleanup and recovery. And again, the reason that I'm bringing the insurance aspect into it is because when you're looking to respond and then you have to make your claim, it's kind of, you need to kind of understand in your security policies, besides making that decision, then what are the requirements to make that claim, right? Especially in a ransomware attack, when it could mean that there's a lot of loss and damage. So why? Why are there different types? Because the different types of the insurance may require different supposed to be activities based on the laws and the insurance requirements. Remember, we have state laws for if there's breach notifications, there's a certain amount of time that a company has to let their clients or those people that were involved in the breach, they have to notify them. There's a certain time period. And there's state laws, and there's obviously federal regulations on some, and then there's insurance requirements. If the organization has an insurance policy and it says you must report in such and such time, you must do these activities, you're going to want to meet that requirement in order to make your claim, right? Again, ransomware has hit your company. You've decided that no, you're not going to pay the ransom. And so then you would go back, looking at the security policy that supported that statement of no, you're not going to pay. And then looking back, then how would this impact the insurance, and the fact that we could still have some issues coming out of that, right? So for example, in a data breach, a company is required to notify customers based on state laws, like we just talked about. So the insurance company could include the aspect, right, that a policy purchased for data breach coverage, right? Maybe that insurance company decided, or that company decided to purchase a data breach coverage. The insurance company may pay to provide notifications and services to manage the notifications. So let's say that the company chose data breach insurance, and that would cover them being able to hire a PR and then help them in the cost of notification and such. The other example would be if there was a network attack, it may be that the insurance company may require like a third-party verification to make the determination of the legitimacy of the attack, right? It's possible before you make a claim, you must do this. In this case, the company would need to clearly understand who pays for that third-party investigation, right? So again, companies are purchasing cyber insurance and having to run through kind of the scenarios of do I understand, what the policy covers? So if an attack occurs, I can make that determination, right? Final example, the insurance company may provide for recovery and cleanup from attacks, but this may be an additional cost, right? Maybe an addendum. So again, cyber insurance has been around for a while. It has become the popular go-to in order to balance out, right? You implement security controls, you make the determination based on your risk, and that's part of that risk plan, right? Ransomware attackers know this, and a lot of times they know what large companies pay, like how much that policy would pay out to them, right? So understanding the insurance policy and aligning it with the security policy so those requirements are met. So when a ransomware attack occurs, the organization makes their decision, then they have the requirements in place in their processes so they can make the claim that's necessary, right? But again, part of the reason that we're really bringing this up is because the attacker really does know a lot of times how much the company would pay based on their policy. So again, this is an example, and by no means is this a support for anything. It's not an advertisement on any insurance. It's just I pulled this up as an example. So Hartford offers data breach and cyber liability insurance. There's there too. And they state our data breach insurance and cyber liability insurance are two different policies. So they're two different. So like I was saying, there's difference. An attacker's probably knows everything about the policies than the insurance policies that are out there, right? So the data breach policy, what they're saying is that it helps notify affected customers, patients, or employees, hire public relation firm, and then offer credit monitoring services to data breach victims. So this data breach policy, the interpretation, again, this is not a sales pitch or anything, it's just my interpretation of this is it helps them, once that occurs, it helps them not necessarily recover, it's a notification, right? You know, we've had a data breach, this is our insurance policy, we're going to make that claim, and then they can help us notify and manage that. The cyber liability policy helps with legal services to meet state and federal regulations, because remember, excuse me, like we talked about before, when you have a data breach, you have notification time periods, right? And so you need to really follow those. What this insurance is saying is that it will help you, if you buy this policy, it will help you do that. Notification expenses, extortion paid to recover locked files, lost income from network outage, lawsuits related to customer employee privacy, and then regulatory fines. Regulatory fines may be a health facility, just an example we probably could all relate to. A health facility had a HIPAA violation, now they have to pay a fine, right? So maybe they have insurance to help pay for this. But the key I kind of want to bring up here, and this is kind of why I brought the insurance aspect into it, and especially aligning it with your security policies, is extortion paid to recover locked files in a in a ransomware attack, right? So locked files, and so you could, if a ransomware attack occurs and you're a large company, and of course you have your liability insurance, and it's aligned really well with your security policy, so it says you do or you do not have to pay, right? You can't, again, it's a decision that management's going to make, but the policy would support that decision, right? So, okay, we're going to pay this, you know, that's what we feel like we should do. Management makes that decision. And again, it says right here, liability, extortion paid to recover locked files in a ransomware attack. So, you know, let's pay that. Of course, as an attacker, I'm gonna know all about the company. I'm gonna know exactly how much money I'm gonna get. So I'm gonna ask for that amount because I know I can get it, right? So again, this is just an example to say that the attackers really know about the company and really know how much, like for instance, their cyber insurance would pay, right? It's not a guarantee you'll ever get those files back, obviously, and it could be lost forever. And then of course, down here, additional items, there's addendums, right? Lost income, prior acts coverage, extortion coverage, and these are extra costs. And again, all this information is just from this Hartford website. It's just an example. I just looked something up on cyber. There's lots of insurance companies out there, but bringing in the insurance company aspect I wanted to bring because that aspect in you, because it could make an impact, right? It could impact the how and the why, pay or not pay, kind of framework, right? That you build out in your security policies. So I'm going to go. So the key takeaway of this discussion on organizations' response, first response to ransomware is it is important to review annually your cyber insurance policy, right? You want to understand the requirements that must be met. So if you respond to a ransomware attack and you decide that you're not going to pay, and then you make the claim for any type of damages, if it should be such that you can, even if you didn't pay the ransom attack, you kind of have to have an understanding of your insurance, so you know how the claim would go. Make sure you've met the requirements to be able to make that claim. This ensures that updates in the policy are captured in the security policy, right? Remember the thou shall and thou shall not. Just, it captures updates every year. Every year you're going to, the organization is going to look at their cyber insurance policy, right? They just, every year, I know I'm going to stay with this insurance company, I'm going to keep paying for it, but maybe there's new updates and new requirements. So you just want to make sure that annually you have it, you take a look at that and you understand that, right? Because making a claim, especially if there's a ransomware attack and you've decided you're going to pay it, because attackers already know then how much you would pay out from your insurance. You want to make sure that you've met that requirement. And then we actually have a security assessment team here at UMA. It's made up of students. And we go out and we're a security resource to small businesses within Maine. And what we've done is, one of the activities that we perform, and we've done this the majority of the time, is we look at with the client. Of course, we have all the agreements and the NDAs and everything in place, because this is information that it's not like the attackers know it already, right? But this is sensitive information, and the fact that this is about what the company does and the requirements that they would need to meet. We take the insurance policies and we kind of look at their security policy, and we kind of do that. Okay, your insurance policy says that you'd have to do, report to them within 72 hours of an attack and send a date time audit log stamped at a certain address. That's just an example. So let's look at your security policy or even your process, and let's just make sure that this is in there, like the incident response plan or something. Let's just make sure this is captured. So if something were to happen, then you could go follow the right requirements, right? So we've done that a lot of times, especially for the small businesses. So small businesses, especially for the Security Exchange Commission, this is all throughout the United States, is there certain requirements, and they've published newer requirements since 2018. No matter how small you are, right? No matter if you're a one-person company to a larger company, you have to meet data protection regulations, right? And so it was just to help them look through what that would mean for them. And a couple of them have experienced some ransomware attacks. So it was just a way to kind of assist them. So again, you're looking at your insurance policy to understand the requirements, and to capture that in your our security policy. You're looking at your cyber insurance to look at your security policy and capture that. So when you do that first response of thou shalt pay or thou shalt not, that you have met certain requirements, so you can have assistance with that based on your support services that you have. So an example, if the cyber insurance requires a third party to determine legitimacy of the attack, the company must report at a certain time frame. That must be a part of the security policy and the incident response plan. So it was kind of a way of, okay, we've been hit with ransomware. Our first response is we're absolutely not going to pay for it, right? Great. Not going to pay for it. Your files are gone. They're lost. They're locked. You're not going to get them back. So what would you do? You definitely would then have to recover. So we'd have to go to backups, right? So again, a part of this is if the organization responds that they're going to pay, if the organization responds that they're not going to pay, then you have to have that support there to know that you can clean up and recover and maintain, restructure the data that was lost during that time period, right? So your backups need to be really, really good. So NIST is my go-to. After 20 years in public and private sector, definitely NIST has been my go-to. So we talk about backups, and again, the organization has decided not to pay. Their policy aligned with that, and the cybersecurity insurance was reviewed, and the attackers asked for the amount that they would have had to, the insurance company does pay out for ransomware attacks. They've decided not to pay, so then they have to recover from this, right? They have to recover from that, and everything was locked. So backups are key and critical. A prevention solution involving backups, physical security, employee education is most effective, right, in recovering from attacks, but and defending against them as well. But the backups are critical. In your security policy, your thou shalt document, and cyber insurance backups is another key area, right? And your backup policy should be a part of that security policy. And NIST can help you provide clean backups. And there's a reason that we want to say clean backups, right? We want it to be free of malicious code. We want it to not be altered. We want to make sure that the backups have not been altered. We want to know if the backups have been altered, who has altered them and when. And we want to make sure that we understand maybe some events that occurred if data was altered. And we want to document like any impact with the alteration. So we need clean backups because now we've decided not to pay, and we want to make sure that we can restore and recover. So we do our backups regularly, and we've have a backup that's separate. We've done our backups. Maybe we do it every midnight. We take our backups offline. They're not connected to the network, and we store them separately. And we do that every night, 7 days a week. And then we also what we do is we also do online journaling, maybe a little online journaling, but we monitor and we document who did the backups and who has, or where that stored backup is located. And then we actually do audit logging on the online journaling that takes place for a backup. So we want to make sure the backups are good. Now we have to recover from a ransom attack. So this ties in. So first of all, we need security policies, right? The say thou and thou shall not, kind of help make that decision. Do we pay or do we not? We need to understand our cybersecurity insurance that we have, if we have purchased insurance, to help align with our policy to support the decision of thou shall and thou shall not. And we need to have really good backups, especially if we choose the not to pay, right? So many organizations pay, and these are some really important key points to keep in mind. So many organizations actually pay the ransom. This is not encouraged. And definitely, if you have good backups and you have a good process and you understand your insurance policy and you understand the factors that impact the decision to pay or not, and you have that clearly understood, you can make a good decision and to not pay. And again, it's encouraged because if you keep paying, or if we keep paying, we reinforce that behavior. The attackers are going to continue. Well, they'd probably take a little bit for it to kind of wind down, but eventually it sends that message that, look, okay, but we're not going to pay anymore. We have a good process. We're not going to pay that ransom. So it's not encouraged. It is common knowledge that organizations may pay the ransom amount, but it doesn't obviously guarantee that the key is given, right? So you could pay and they may not give you the key, or they may not unlock your files. And if they give you the key, it may not, it may be the wrong one. I mean, it's once you get hit with that ransomware attack, it's not guaranteed that you'll get your information back. If the malware, ransomware, is removed, the attacker cannot restore your files even if you pay the ransom, right? If you remove it, you go in there and you have, if you remove it, cannot restore, right? The attacker cannot restore your files even if you pay the ransom. Again, this is suggestions. This is not thou shall or have to, but it is suggestions. Many ransomware attackers, again, this is kind of why I brought in the cyber insurance. I really think it's a good idea to understand the requirements that would occur that you would have to do to make a claim to the insurance, and that's part of your security policy, so you can make a good foundational decision, right? Because the organization must respond. Your first response needs to be solid. It needs to have that support there. So they know the amount of cyber insurance an organization has to pay out, right? They know that, okay, they have this policy, and that policy states they'll pay up to 1.5 million or 750,000 or 250,000, right? They know that, and they're going to ask for that amount because they know the insurance company, when you make the claim or however it works, is going to pay that amount. Although encouraged to pay via cybersecurity insurance, premiums have increased greatly, right? So they have, and cyber insurance is a very, it's very popular, and it really is part of a lot of organizations' risk management plan. So we go back to having an adequate backup is the key, right? So here's something to keep in mind. If the backups are done through a network connection, like online journaling, like I spoke of, that's why I was like, do online journaling, but definitely at even like 10 or 15 hours, whatever, do that backup, take it off the network and store it somewhere else. It is possible that those backups fall victim to ransomware attack, to the attack as well, right? So whatever's connected to your network, once that one laptop's been done, I'm pretty sure that in a lot of other places, it'll start popping up. The best is to do a backup, remove those backups from the network, like I said, store them separately off site, and just make sure that you have the proper security over those backups. So again, whatever's connected online could be affected by the ransomware. So it's good to have that's why we talked about a clean backup. So these are the important items to keep in mind, because remember that the organization is making a decision how to first respond of, do they pay or do they not pay? They're going to look at these different aspects. And here are, I included these. This is where I got the information. I will say again, NIST is it's an incredible resource. I use it in my courses here at UMA all the time. It's free to download, and definitely an excellent resource. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this presentation. And I am done with the presentation. So Jill, I guess if there's any questions, or I can certainly answer them.
If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. Thanks. I don't see any coming in.
Well, I mean, that
email address up there too. So
yeah, I do. And feel free to email me, and that just means I was that good, right?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah,
it was very interesting.
Good, and definitely again, we don't mind. We have a security assessment team and students that would love the experience to be able to answer questions as well. So definitely reach out.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. As mentioned, this recording and these slides will be posted on the CAE community site. So feel free to take a look or share them. Thank you very much. And thank you, Bettina.
Thank you.
Thank you.